All right, art students. So I've been coming a very long ways on this, and I actually already began painting with some watercolor paint on top of all of my coloring material. My crayon, I've been painting on top of my watercolored pencil, on my oil pastel, on top of my pen, on top of my marker, permanent marker that is, and you can see the qualities are quite stunning, and it really transforms your work of art. And especially in my stormy sky, I love how well that turned out. Because first I layered on there some white coloring crayon, light pressure, just kind of rubbing over it. And I let the watercolor paint decide where it wants to seep and saturate down into the paper and where it was going to sit on top. And I am so happy with how that turned out. I also drug down some of that gray-black color down into the ocean, or the sea in the background, and I think that gives it more of that ominous kind of scary look, like intimidating waters. And then down here, I'm kind of playing around still yet with some greens and blues to come up with this really cool aqua-colored effect. And kind of liking it so far. So that's where we're at right now. So I'll continue to show you what happens when we work with watercolor on top of these materials. So the first thing I did is I layered on my blue. Now I'm layering on I layered on my green, and now I'm going on top of it with some blue. And I'm mixing the two together on the paper. I'm not mixing the colors in the tray. All of my color mixing that's happening is right here on the paper. And every time I go back, since I'm layering with my watercolor paint, I'm washing out my brush first here. Then I go back into the second color that's layering on top. And this is looking pretty cool so far. Pretty satisfied with this. And watercolor dries, pretty quick. So, you can continue to add layers of watercolor to give it more and more color. And you can always play around a little bit with value by adding or not having as much water in it until you kind of get it where you like it. And watercolor, honestly, sometimes you just gotta let it do its own thing, because it's watercolor and it's gonna go where it wants to go, and it's gonna be where it wants to be to some extent. That's just like a good tip of advice for you right there. And, I feel, looking at this now, I love the beautiful, aqua tones of my, like the greens and the blues, and how they come together. I really like it a lot. However, I feel that it's too vivid, and it needs a little bit of that stormy atmosphere. So I'm going to be very careful and wash out my brush here. I'm just going to touch in a little bit of some black. I know it sounds scary. But I'm just going to invite a little bit here, there, and here. Because I want it to tie into my background, and I feel like kind of subduing it a little bit is going to do a lot. It was just too saturated, or it just needed some quieting down, hush, hush. And black or gray can really do that quite nicely. I'm just doing a little bit, and I'm being very careful with how much I'm using and where I'm placing it. And yeah, basically. See, like right here, I think maybe too much over here, and see what happens there. So that's gonna happen. Sometimes you're gonna do something and you don't like it, and you should learn from that and kind of work with it. Now I'm going to mix in a little bit of extra water to hopefully try to pull and push some of that excess around. And yeah, now it's actually starting to look a little better. You really just got to kind of play with it until you get it how you like it. Play, play, play. Lots of playing with it. Yes, this is really cool. I think this art project is so incredible. And this makes my oars look really dirty or really awesome. I don't know. Now I'm going to do some brown paint on top of my brown. And let's just see what happens. It's probably not going to do much because it looks like the brown in my watercolor tray is pretty close